When I was a kid, I used to love going to arcades. Go in there, spend all day, spend, $5. You could be there all day long. Loved it. You know what I hated about arcades, though? Sometimes you would go to one of these little neighborhood arcades, a little janky arcade, and you'd see like a Street Fighter machine, and you'd start walking up to it, and then you'd realize about halfway there that it's not actually a Street Fighter machine. It's like a Mortal Kombat machine, or a Tekken machine, or maybe it's Pac-Man, but they put it inside the wrong arcade cabinet because, they're like, fuck it, whatever. We'll just throw any game inside this because it's the same thing, right? Nobody's gonna mind. Well, that always pissed me off. And it seems that Arcade 1-Up is now going to bring you that same kind of experience with their Fast and Furious arcade cabinet. Because when you go there expecting the Fast and Furious game, that isn't what you're going to get. But we'll talk about that. But until then, let's hit that theme music.
Hey, get out of my way. I gotta see what Tony TGD's gonna say. Time to listen to the Geek Getaway. Cause I brought so many geeky films, games, and TV shows. Maybe if we're lucky, the weather expose the amigo. Hey, get out of my way. This season gives it hot takes, so you might as well stay. It's time to listen to the Geek Getaway.
What's up, meatbags? It's the often imitated, never duplicated Tony TGD coming at you once again with an Arcade 1-Up video in which Arcade 1-Up is being quite scummy. If you haven't heard, the latest Arcade 1-Up cabinet is a 2-for-1 deal. You get the Fast and the Furious and the Fast and the Furious Drift. That's right, 2 great arcade games for the price of one Arcade 1-Up cabinet. However, there's already controversy. The cabinet's not even been released, and there's already controversy. You see, I was alerted to this because I saw a tweet from Michael B. the Game Genie, and Michael B. the Game Genie directed me to a video done by Kong's R Us. That's right, B. Kong was out there telling us that there might be an issue with this cabinet because he heard Travis MCP on a live stream, Game Time episode 33 to be precise, from the Tech Buzz Gaming, in which Travis basically dropped a huge bit of information saying that you're not actually getting the games that are being advertised on the website. So let's take a look at the website and see what it says. Alright, here is the website page for the Fast and the Furious arcade cabinet. As you can see, got product details, and I highlighted the 3 things you need to pay attention to. In red there is the 2 classic arcade games, and the 2 games listed, the Fast and the Furious and the Fast and the Furious Drift. As you can see, it says 2 classic arcade games. It doesn't say 2 arcade games, it doesn't say 1 arcade game and then 1 additional game made from the previous arcade game. No, it says 2 classic arcade games. They're basically saying you're getting the Fast and the Furious arcade game, the classic arcade game, and then the Fast and the Furious Drift, the classic arcade game. But why am I stressing this so much? Well, we have to go to Travis MCP to find out why. Now, before we get to Travis's statement, I got to say that, again, this was on the Tech Buzz Gaming YouTube channel, and because it was a podcast with multiple people, I'm only going to show a still frame of Travis while I play the audio. So you're going to hear the actual audio, but you're not going to see Travis moving because, well, there's an individual who's on that particular podcast who was really, really offended that I had them in a video a while back. So to avoid any drama, to avoid any unnecessary headaches, like I said, we're just going to play the audio. But Travis, he'll be static. Okay, we're all on the same page? Alright, let's get to the statement from Travis MCP, who, as far as I know, is not working for Arcade 1-Up, is associated with, helping out, I don't know, volunteering. It's some weird, convoluted thing. He's got the inside track, let's just put it that way. And so he's going to let us know. He's going to drop the hammer on what's going on. And to preface this, Travis was just asked, are the games separately selectable? Go ahead, Travis, and give us your answer.
They are separately selectable, but because they use the same code base, because that's why I asked you how differently they drive between. Are they much different? Probably not.
No.
Did not take the code from Fast and Furious and put it on this machine, and then Drift and put it on this machine. They put Drift on this machine, and then like
Oh no.
Makes sense.
Oh, hold up. Did he just say they did not take the code from Fast and the Furious, put it on the machine, and then the code from Fast and the Furious Drift and put it on the machine, but rather they just took Fast and the Furious Drift and sort of converted that into the Fast and the Furious game? There's no way he just said that. I gotta listen to this again. Travis, can you say it again?
No.
Did not take the code from Fast and Furious and put it on this machine, and then Drift and put it on this machine. They put Drift on this machine, and then like
No, he really just said that. He really just said that. They did not take the code for the Fast and the Furious and put it on this machine. It is being advertised as two classic arcade games. Taking the code from Fast and the Furious Drift, locking out a bunch of features, and trying to pass that off as Fast and the Furious is not the same as putting Fast and the Furious on there. Thank you for all your help, Travis, but you're no longer needed. You see, Fast and the Furious Drift has different mechanics than Fast and the Furious because, just like the name says, Drift, there is a drift mechanic in Fast and the Furious Drift that is not present in the original Fast and Furious. Not to mention there's several visual differences between the two games. We'll take a look. Now this is a screenshot from a video by Ghoulifier. As you can see, this is Fast and the Furious, the arcade game. It's only 480p, so you're not going to get the highest quality, so it might look a little bit better, but as you can see, you got a blue flag as the check says F and F, Fast and Furious. You can see that you have the position on your right. It tells you third. You got the elapsed time on your left, and on the bottom is the air time on the bottom left, and on the bottom right is your speedometer. Now let's take a look at the UI for Tokyo Drift, or rather just Drift, because they didn't actually call it Tokyo Drift, they just called it Drift. Fast and the Furious Drift. Let's take a look at the screenshot. Now this is Fast and the Furious Drift, a screenshot from MU Gamer. As you can see, you got the speedometer in the lower right, but in the upper right, nothing, because the position has been changed to the upper left, and included in the position is your time. Now in the bottom left, you can see the air time still there, but now it's drift time next to it, because there's a new mechanic, the drift mechanic. As you can also see that the flag for the checkpoint is a nice green color, doesn't have the Fast and the Furious logo on it no more. So just the UI differences and the little bit of visual differences among the tracks is enough to not give you that actual 100% factual arcade experience. You know, the arcade experience you loved when the Fast and Furious movie came out, when you were going to the theater and they would always have those machines in the theater in the little lobby area, you know, the 3 or 4 games, and Fast and Furious was one of them. You get in there, you put in your quarters, and you play some racing. That's not what you're going to get. What you're going to get is a bootleg version, essentially, being retrofitted out of the Fast and Furious Drift game. And as you can see, even the speedometers are a little bit different. And I know people say, well, Tony, it's not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal. They're more or less the same. More or less. But that's not what's being advertised. They're not advertising more or less Fast and the Furious. They're advertising 2 classic arcade games, one of which is Fast and the Furious, the arcade game. And you're not getting that. You're 100% not getting what is being advertised. And that, in my opinion, is scummy behavior. And it needs to be called out. More people need to be aware of this scummy practice. Look, I understand that there's licensing issues. There's issues with the car manufacturers. They don't want to get involved with the game. And then certain cars are going to have to be cut out. And because those cars were in the first game and maybe those manufacturers don't want to be in this, right, you couldn't get the license. So this is your way to circumvent the licensing issues. I get that. I understand. But just say that. Just come out and say, hey, you're not getting Fast and the Furious because we can't get the license for it. But you're getting Fast and Furious Drift, and because we wanted to try to give you some sort of experience like the Fast and the Furious arcade game, we went ahead and, you know, we fooled around with the code for Fast and the Furious Drift, and we sort of made a Fast and the Furious experience using the drift as a basis, right? You know, we locked some features, we changed some things, and we gave you the best equivalent that we could of the Fast and the Furious arcade game without actually being able to give it to you. Now, would that sell arcade units? Probably not. People might be upset, but that's what it is, right? That is the truth. And if you're going to advertise a product, you need to be truthful. If you're going to have trust with the community, you need to be truthful. You need to say, hey, this is a bonus game, right? You're actually buying Fast and the Furious Drift, the arcade machine from Arcade 1-Up, and as a bonus, we threw in this bootleg Fast and the Furious game, right? And then let people decide if that's what they want. But this is tricking people. This is, people who aren't knowledgeable, people who maybe don't go on YouTube, people who ain't nitpicky like the rest of us. These people are going to see the advertisement. Maybe they remember playing the game and they're going to go ahead and buy it. And the game is not going to live up to the memory. They're going to be like, this is different. This is what I remember. There's certain cars missing. There's certain things missing, certain features. The UI is different. I don't remember those flags, right? It's going to mess with people's heads and they're going to be upset. And you're going to have a lot of returns. And you're going to have a lot of disappointed people. A lot of people who are no longer going to buy Arcade 1-Ups. You lost customer, right? Because you didn't advertise it correctly. Now, if you want a more in-depth discussion, if you want to get more technicals, you want people arguing, Michael B, the Game Genie, is going to do a live stream on this very issue on Monday, May 1st. If you're watching this at a later date, that's the May 1st would be the live stream day to go back and look it up on Michael B, the Game Genie's channel. But until then, you know how I do it here. Love, peace, booty grease. I'm out this bitch.